just because people say things does not make them true. Now, I also, as I was writing the speech, I just wanted to kind of speak spiritually for a second, because I was thinking about this. Wouldn't it just be the character of the enemy to use your weaknesses to keep you silent and afraid? For me, that was being a people pleaser. And he knew that that reaction from those girls would get me to shut up for years. And admittedly, it did. Of course he would want that. He will look for your weaknesses and try to exploit them to keep you chained down and far from the directive and the plan that the Lord has for your life. And so a few years went by, and I pulled inward. Except for an essay here or there when I was required to write on my, white privilege. And for that particular essay, I remember spinning it to talk about my American privilege, to which my teacher gave me feedback and said, well, you didn't quite get the point of the assignment. And I remember thinking, no, you're confused. I'm not confused. However, the years went on. And during those years, my internships and my jobs were not mirroring my own beliefs. If anything, in some cases, they were actively representing the opposite. And I felt increasingly convicted again to speak up, to stand up, to say something, to stop allowing my desire for acceptance to have a vice grip over my tongue. And Daily Wire became an escape for me to go to and hear my thoughts echoed. And after listening to Ben Shapiro on double speed for years, which I did do, I don't know if any of you can do that, you can handle him at double speed. I can, proud to admit it. And so I listened to him for a long time, and eventually that audio escape became my new place of employment. And it has been, the honor of a lifetime to spend years working on a show and now getting to host that show in which I am freely allowed to ask questions and speak truth. And it's what brings me here today, to speak with so many incredible students here who I know you guys are already being bold, and you're finding your voices much sooner than I was able to find mine. Now, many of you are so young, in fact, that there's a consensus online there is no way that you guys even exist. No way. I was doing some research for a recent comment section episode, and I saw people on TikTok talking about the fact that every young person must start out as a liberal. You must. According to their logic, to be a human being with a soul, a good person, you must first be liberal. And then maybe over time you become more and more conservative, but no, you have to start as a liberal. And I, and probably many of you in this room, fundamentally reject that idea. You guys have souls, right? Yeah? Okay, you're kind, good people, right? Okay, glad to hear. Yeah, I thought so. Now, most of us didn't spend decades and decades as liberals before we made the switch. We just got a head start. It's great. But if the accepted consensus online is that you get more conservative as you gain wisdom and as you age, why would we want to wait decades to get in on that? It doesn't even make sense. Their argument is silly. We just learned certain truths earlier in life and have been able to withstand the blows of culture to hold firm to them, which is admittedly not always an easy task, as I'm sure that many of you are aware of that. Now, as someone who has taken their fair share of blows this year, I know how hurtful and the pushback can be, and how much hate from strangers on the internet can make you want to shut up. But what I've learned through all of that, in my years of trying to find my voice before that, is that you have to cling to what is true. You must, and then that will help you to empower you to move forward in love. Now, I don't say, X, Y, or Z because I hate another person. In fact, it's out of love for my neighbor and for this nation that I'm willing to say it. I'm not pro-life because I hate women. Of course not. I don't support secure borders because I hate immigrants. I'm not a misogynist. Again, I'm a woman. I'm not afraid of trans people. There's no phobia there. Now, I don't want to be alone with a male in my bathroom. But frankly, if there's any fear around that topic, it's the fear that I have for their well-being, long-term living in that lifestyle. But you get the point. The obes and the is and the isms of insults that will probably be flown your way, they lose their sting and their power when you hold to what is true and you cling to it. The left right now is proudly proclaiming to be the party of anger and division. They celebrate those who go no contact with their grandpa when he votes red in the election. And while that's horrible and heartbreaking, it allows us to be the side that gets to welcome people with open arms. If they're going to be the party that rejoices in the legalized slaughter of innocent lives, then we get to be the party that celebrates life and shows the beauty of it. And what a gift from God that is. Now, I would love to see a radical wave of joyful conservatives, conserving what is good and true out of love, saying what needs to be said out of a posture of love. In a culture that is afraid to say even the simplest of truths, like, again, there are two genders, truth becomes attractive. There's something about standing firm in your values that actually draws people in, like a city on a hill, built on a foundation that does not shake with the wind or change when the trends change on TikTok. But truth isn't always trendy. It's hard sometimes. Even the idea of truth is now up for debate. A recent study found that 67% of Americans say there's no such thing as objective truth. It's only subjective truth. The majority of our country thinks that. So wrapped up in your truth, and my truth, and her truth, and his truth, but we're afraid or unable to say that there is the truth. Now, I'm sure you guys know there is the truth. That's still a thing, even in 2025. So I want to encourage you to be bold, even when it's scary. I'm often asked how I personally got through the recent months when the truth about my character was under heavy attack from strangers on the internet. Insults and words that, frankly, will be under this comment section if this video ever goes anywhere. Words specifically like betrayer, backstabber, snake, actress. And again, I would ask the same question I asked earlier. Would it not be the character of the enemy to find the words and the lies that would hurt you and scare you the most to get you to shut up? To find what would get you to not write that paper. To find what would get you to not make that post or pursue that career path that you feel led to follow. Lies are effective. I know. I get it. But you know what is more effective? The truth. And personally, the truth that I hold above all else, and the thing that has brought me the most comfort in the last several months, is the fact that my identity is found in Christ alone. And that I am working to serve an audience of one. And that my identity in him remains unbreakable. He is my defender. And he goes both before and behind me, before and in front of me, to work all things together for his good and for his glory. And so I have clung to that truth, that rock, and I have trusted it. And even though it is not easy, it has worked. I maintained peace and joy. How? Because it's true. The truth has power, guys. We as conservatives can and should debate and converse and discern fact from fiction and then share our findings with the country. We can be that beacon, that city on a hill, shining to a hungry nation that is desperate for truth. Others will be drawn to it. So don't hide your beliefs in a quest for validation, because I can promise you it is fleeting and it will not be what sustains you in the long term. Instead, let's be the beacon. On social media, in your classrooms, on your campus, to your neighbors, to your friends. We all have a sphere of influence, no matter how big or small. And people are watching every single one of you. So act accordingly. Speak accordingly. Represent your beliefs well and with conviction. The way that you carry yourselves will either encourage others to listen to your ideas or tune them out before you've ever even said a word. And right now, we're winning the culture. And I believe that this is the time that people are most intrigued and willing to hear what we have to say, to find out how conservatives could have possibly won in 2024. So be bold, because it's working. A few years ago, Dylan Mulvaney was front and center on these Nike ads. And a few weeks ago, it was Scotty Scheffler on the greens with his son. It's huge. Hating red dye 40 isn't fringe anymore. Very exciting. Steak and Shake started using beef tallow. Huge win. Forrest Frank is selling out stadiums. They may seem small victories, but just a year ago, that seemed impossible. This nation is not too far gone, and neither is our generation. Believe that, remember that. Things can change in a heartbeat. I mean, just look what we accomplished last November. It did. If we want to keep this momentum, though, we have to win over the hearts of our neighbors. So now the burden and the blessing is on us to show them. Be bold, be brave, cling to truth, and share that with everyone. Thank you guys so much, and God bless. Thank you guys.